This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now with a tornado warning in effect. Here as we're tracking areas in towards South Georgia. Colquitt County at about 7 o'clock. I know we're really watching Helene, and this is really on the very outer fringes, of the pattern here, not really directly associated with it, but a tornado warning for Colquitt County, our first one in our viewing circle. So we need to get folks into shelter, getting that interior room away from windows here. Around Norman Park, we have that potential headed toward you. We have some green and red coming together in the velocity mode, looking for debris. Don't see any on this scan. I'll back it up some. Nothing real apparent, but these tropical tornadoes can happen very quickly. So you got to go ahead and take your tornado precautions there in South Georgia, as we have a tornado warning effect till 7 o'clock for northeastern Colquitt County. At 6:26, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Norman Park or near Moultrie, moving north at 15 miles an hour. So this dangerous storm here will be impacting, areas in and near Norman Park, Crossland, as well as Pineborough and Cool Springs. So you really need to take those tornado precautions right now. I know you're getting ready for the hurricane, and this isn't what you want to have to deal with, but right now you have to stop those efforts. When you have a tornado warning up where when there's light in the area, you have to stop those efforts here, in terms of preparing ahead of the storm because of a situation here like this one. Where you have a tornado warning in play. So go ahead and take those tornado precautions right now. It is imperative that you do so here toward Colquitt County, one of our 62 counties in our area under a tornado warning. We're committed. We're always committed to being on for every tornado warning storm in the area, and we have one right now in South Georgia. So we need to get you guys in shelter. I know we really want you guys to take action. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you need to take action here across the viewing area in general with this terrible storm surge, maybe the worst it's ever been toward the Gulf Coast later tomorrow. Areas like Cedar Key and Horseshoe Beach could be a lot worse than Adalia even, which is just crazy to even say, but high tide might even be involved, so you really, have a nasty situation on your hands. But we have a tornado warning in effect right now until 7 o'clock here in South Georgia. I know right before I was, having to come on with this, I was getting something ready to talk about some high school football action being impacted by weather. So let me go ahead and move the radar down for a moment because we have just, a slew of things going on here in the Weather Center. High school football, Bradford County, homecoming game against Keystone. As the last check, it was postponed in the third quarter there for, at least a 30-minute window. Bradford had a 33-0 lead against Keystone, so it may end up just being called, but delayed at least 30 minutes, I should say. No, technically, when you say postponed, that might confuse folks, but delayed here because we have, some action coming in. This was a little bit stronger a few moments ago with some lightning here showing up. Right now it's a weakening sound, but we had a little bit of rotation with it here, but it wasn't overwhelming, but there's a little bit of landfall potential here within this, so that seems to be kind of going down here, but we'll keep an eye on that. But honestly, we just have so many things going on. I like to really talk about stuff like that with high school football and the impacts, but we just have so much going on, a lot more dire issues, especially in the Mariner area. But right now, I like threatening situation potentially in South Georgia, so we need to get folks into shelter. A tornado warning effect. You want to seek shelter into a sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet there, football helmet, something like that. And we also have some rotation down here, though it's not as discreet. The storm isn't as isolated, but down in here, and then even here we have some rotation. So you got to be kind of careful. These are some pretty strong thunderstorms in South Georgia, but that's not great. Your preparation for the storm that's going to be so severe, it's being delayed here because of these storms coming on in. Whenever thunder roars, you got to go indoors, or that can be deadly as well. It's just a crazy thing when you think about it like that. But again, we need to get folks into shelter here. And we have hurricane warnings, all sorts of places in South Georgia. I mean, even you go into Southeast Alabama, we have some areas under hurricane warning because this storm's just going to be so expansive here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation, and just have to be really cognizant of what is happening. And in some cases, we have a tornado warning right now. I mean, you got to take immediate action. You kind of got to, unfortunately, when things could actually be worse over a wider area tomorrow in this red box, especially. But even when there's lightning around, to an extent, I mean, you might be restricted a little more today, or have to, because the hurricane's gonna be so much worse tomorrow. But lightning can still be deadly. The tornado situation now, you just got to kind of drop what you are doing and get into that interior room away from windows here. So, because I can still have winds in theory. Not that I'm seeing it necessarily, but in theory, you could have winds in this type of situation upward about 90 miles an hour. Now, some of the tornadoes tomorrow that we could have really, closer to Helene, those tornadoes could have winds, that are even stronger, maybe considered EF2 type tornadoes in some cases, but we could have those about 115 miles an hour. But I'm not seeing that potential with this one, but still winds to 90, not out of the question here toward Norman Park. In towards South Georgia. So you got to go ahead and take your tornado precautions. This is west of Interstate 75 there. So go ahead and get an interior room away from windows. Let me see if there's any questions or comments from any of the viewers here at home, and we'll have a more comprehensive update on the storm later tonight, as long as we don't just get hit with, tornado warnings for hours and hours here, which I'm not expecting tonight. We might have that tomorrow, but not tonight. But we'll have comprehensive update later on. I'll try to get some graphics up here in a moment on our system if this threat kind of starts to dwindle down a little bit more, just to kind of give you an idea of a couple of things. But right now, let's just kind of focus on this tornado warning here for the Norman Park area. That looks like it's weakening, quite honestly. I mean, it wasn't really tight to begin with. I'll back it up. I mean, I was pretty broad, quite honestly, but there's enough concern. This is a tornado warning. There's a hook on here that's kind of faded, and it was kind of by itself. And they're watching some other stuff here, moving toward Moultrie. It's tricky with a hurricane warning. I mean, I don't know at this point, since it's sitting directly with the hurricane itself, but they want to see if it's a thunderstorm warning or not. But that almost looks like a candidate for something like that in a traditional sense here. But I guess they would do it because they're in Idalia or Jacksonville. I see some of those out ahead. But again, a tornado warning up here, that's weakening quite a bit, but still takes shelter in Norman Park. Sometimes stuff doesn't upgrade in radar, but I think the chances of a tornado there, around Norman Park are, not zero, but they're not really high at this moment. So again, we're watching that carefully. I'm going to go ahead and get, while I'm talking to you, since this is a one-man band, I'm going to get a couple things together to put in our graphic system here, updated information on Helene, because there's some important details to get to here while we are breaking in, because there's, some different things. I've been running the satellite stream here today and the like, and we'll have some updated impact graphics later. It's just a one-man band, but I want to just go ahead and kind of give you a couple things here on the fly. So again, just bear with me. We still have the tornado warning. I'm still watching it. Go ahead and take your tornado precautions there in Colquitt County, Georgia, around Norman Park. It's not impossible that a tornado could be here. I'm just not really seeing it, but sometimes the tropical tornado signals on radar can be pretty weak. So again, we're just going to continue to watch here. I know it's kind of interfering with your preparations for what's going to be, in most cases, for folks a lot worse tomorrow. And honestly, when we get in the thick of things, if we have tornado warnings closer to the core, it might be a situation a tornado touches down, and when it's time to, possibly survey it later on, you just won't be able to tell the difference because, between the winds that hit with the hurricane and a tornado that hit right before, because there'll just be so much damage. Now, further out from the core, that's where you get more concerned, like maybe Jacksonville, area, Brunswick, somewhere further away where you don't have as much wind damage. Even hopefully, for folks around Stark, we don't get as much damage from the hurricane. If we were to have a tornado come through, it'd probably be easier to identify that damage here. But again, just continuing to watch things here in the ward. The weather centers, we have a tornado warning in effect right now until 7 p.m., but they may cancel this early. The Weather Service in Tallahassee may cancel this early here, so we're just going to continue to watch as the situation does progress here with Helene. And, just the really outer periphery of the setup here, the weather setup, impacting folks there, with some of these other scattered, areas of convection, but precisely there, right now we're most concerned in South Georgia. I'm most concerned in South Georgia right now about that. I'll kind of go to a broader view real quick so you guys know what's going on. You can kind of see here what we're dealing with just in terms of the Doppler technology, different areas of convection across the region here. Again, you just gotta be cognizant of the lightning. That's not what you want to have when you're trying to get prepared for a hurricane, especially that it's going to be just so severe, so devastating, so catastrophic maybe, because we're expecting a Cat 4 at landfall even. So not good news. Not good news at all here as we're looking at things. As we're looking at the scenario, we really are very, very concerned here in toward the weather center. So again, we're just trying to give you guys the very latest here. We're always watching things, for our 62 counties. Let me go ahead and go to our coverage map to remind you guys of where we're at here with the, coverage zone. Colquitt and Georgia, we have the tornado warning right now. I know different things going on. High school football trying to take place in Bradford County. Homecoming game of Bradford up 33-0 in the third quarter, but it's delayed right now. At the last sector, lightning, that they may go ahead and just call it. I think they already had a running clock there going because of the big lead. So they may call, but they could resume if they want to, I think, because this, situation right now moving through isn't something that, is going to be long lasting. So that's good news. At least there's some other high school games trying to be played tonight across the area as well, and just kind of have to look at things on that hyper local level. But again, just continuing to watch things with our hurricane, with Hurricane Helene. I know things could be quite a bit worse than Idalia. Just as crazy to even say that, because Idalia was kind of the new benchmark storm for some of these areas, and depending on how this tracks, it's going to be bigger than Idalia for one, but in terms of its size, but if it tracks, more in Taylor County, then it's, a pretty high likelihood that storm's sure to be quite a bit worse. Horseshoe Beach, Cedar Key, Steinhatchee. Now, if it tracks more up right into Tallahassee, it'll still be pretty bad. It may still be worse, but then we're worried more about Wakulla and Jefferson storm surge even. And then that wind damage, wherever it is hit, could just be terrible, terrible, in terms of how things are going to set on up here in the overall scenario. So not good news here, folks, at all about our hurricane. We'll go back to the Doppler right now, and it looks like we do have a report on this now. Okay, they've canceled the tornado warning for one. We got a few different things going on. So I know I'm working on graphics here to try to get something for you guys. Okay, so for one, they canceled the tornado warning. That's good news. For two, there's just been a report, though, from earlier at 6:21 that a train spotter saw a funnel cloud in here. So that was something that, was cause for concern as we're looking at things. You see that icon there. I'll zoom in a little bit closer even, but there between Moultrie and Ellington, a train spotter caught and sent in pictures of a funnel cloud in Colquitt County around Pineboro. So that's, a situation where a tornado was trying to form. Hopefully it didn't get down to the ground, but that was before the official warning was issued. And in fact, these are so hard to figure out, especially when there are these weak signals like this. But We'll have to watch some other areas. I know we have it now a flash flood warning. We were seeing some earlier on in the day in the Panhandle area of our cover zone, and we were running a radar stream. We just popped some of those up and then retweeted stuff there as well on Twitter/X at Cloud Casey. But now a flash flood warning here, which is not great in terms of you're going to have more rain tomorrow. It won't, maybe this be, a catastrophic flood event, but if you already have all the antecedent rainfall ahead, it's not great. Now, other areas, further up in Georgia could have more, potential for catastrophic flooding, western North Carolina because of different factors there. The water might not be able to go down as quick. And even if you get in the Iowa, there could be, a short period. We saw in Medallion, Valdosta last year, a short period where there is a catastrophic flood threat across the area, but it's going to be going as fast as you ever see with a hurricane, maybe 30 miles an hour, the forward speed, which is almost unheard of here in this part of the country with a hurricane, especially to this, degree in terms of its intensity. But flash flood warning at 9:45, west central Brooks, western Colquitt, Thomas, eastern Grady, and southeastern Mitchell counties at 6:45. Doppler radar indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rain here across the warned area. Between 2 and 3 inches of rain have fallen. Flash floods ongoing are expected to begin shortly. Thomasville, Pelham, Moultrie, Cairo, Camilla, Boston, Doran, Ocklackney, Coolidge, Riverside, Sly, Funston, Barwick, Seal City, Chastain, Pasco, Merrillville, Dawesville, and Dillon under this. So remember, turn around, don't drown. As they're looking at this, but I know that tornado warning we came on for originally, that has been canceled here, so that's good. But there's a lot of bad news here in the forecast. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have as worst of a forecast as you'll ever see. As we're looking towards some of our viewing area here later on in toward the timeline. So, very serious situation here, folks. You got to be taking this, with so much emphasis on how bad this could be. Again, could be terrible here as we look ahead in toward the timeline. I'm getting our graphics together real quick. We're going to be getting some stuff together for an update later tonight, but we'll have one later tonight as long as we don't get just a, barrage of tornado warnings. But I wanted to give you an update on some stuff while we're on the air. We have some folks watching, so I'm almost done with one of these graphics. So I just kind of have to get everything put in here. Some of it's kind of more with these track updates. I have to kind of do some manual entry here while I'm talking to you guys and the like. It's not like just pulling the radar up, because this is going to say you guys a lot of stuff here. So it's important that I say this to you guys while we're on the air. Now, you just got to be really cognizant of what's going on. I know we could have, and while I'm getting this ready, let me pull up our tornado safety tips, because we're going to have a threat of tornadoes really, coming to play tomorrow across the area. Maybe during the day out ahead of the core of this, which will be moving fast, but out ahead we could have a pretty substantial tornado threat. So important to keep those tornado safety tips in mind. There's not a tornado watch right now. Even we had that rogue tornado warning, but probably going to have them tomorrow, especially. That's going to be the focal point in terms of the timeline. And then, tornado warnings, you really got 600 to that 30 building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Maybe even put on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, something like that. A strong tornado. Northeast, North Central Florida, other areas of the viewing circle, it can't be ruled out tomorrow out ahead of the core. That's especially. So, again, we've got to be really cognizant of that. It could be in Southeast Georgia as well. I believe enhanced risk up there as of last check for that. So, that's not what you want to hear, obviously, as we're looking at things. That's a big story in and of itself, but we got so many big stories going on. You had enhanced risk around around Brunswick. Oh, okay, we got to cut away from this graphic now. We got a confirmed tornado on the ground in South Georgia. Okay, so this is just, it's in Colquitt, Tipton, Worth here. So let's go ahead and, alright, so C7 to that 30 building there. Right now, we have a tornado warning. Let me go ahead and jump on over to our other source here. We have a confirmed tornado on the ground now, we're being told. At 6:50, a confirmed tornado is located in Norman Park. So even though the rotation is really falling apart on radar, Law enforcement has confirmed a tornado is touching down. So this is really not a great thing here. The Weather Service, myself, both were thinking this was really falling apart, but Georgia Highway Patrol actually has just seen a tornado touchdown, so they've had to reissue this tornado warning now. Here, a tornado on the ground here near Norman Park. I know it's not showing up very well in velocity, but an observed tornado at 6:50 or so. This warning, being reissued now because there's a tornado in progress as of, the reporting here coming on in just the last several moments. So, it may be something to sort, in terms of the duration, but north central Colquitt, southwestern tip, as well as southeastern Worth counties until 7:15. At 6:50, a confirmed tornado is located near Norman Park, or 11 miles northeast of Moultrie, moving north at 15 miles an hour. Mainly rural areas of the indicated zones, but does include Crosland there. I guess it'd be Crosland instead of Crossland. But then Scooterville and then Powelltown in there. So, tornado on the ground here in our viewing area in Colquitt County. Take those tornado precautions here right away. Don't really see anything with debris, so probably a very weak type thing here. Maybe be more of a land spat situation. And that means this, winds maybe not even, really to 65 miles an hour or so. But nonetheless, a tornado warning is in play. We're always on for any of the tornado warnings within our area, and we have a, confirmation of at least probably a brief, touchdown here. So that purple box means the tornado has been confirmed on the ground here. And I know seeing these, warnings like this, hearing the confirmations, even though they're weak, makes me think tomorrow could be pretty rocky because the parameters are, not that high for tornado potential right now. And tomorrow they will be across some of our area. They're not zero. We did have a minimal risk, not in that part of our area, actually, which is interesting, but let me go ahead and jump on over here. So there's our parameters. You can see there's just blues for supercell composite. Significant tornado parameter not really showing up. Your SBC risk, that's technically not included there. But as we look downstate, let me go ahead and pull here. You see the risk, and then you see our meso. You see the parameters higher there and even higher, closer in toward the storm. Significant tornado parameters trying to come into view as well. Some of the action on radar. Let me go ahead and take our tornado warning super off for a moment here. I want to put on the satellite. So there's our storm further over toward the west there. Recon's been out there and the like, trying to figure out exactly what's going on here with Helene. And you can kind of see that thunderstorm activity there around, Cancun and to the north. It's trying to wrap up. It's expected to become a Cat 4 hurricane, Category 4, before a landfall later tomorrow. And, that would be terrible. There's a chance it could even, approach Cat 5, but there's also a chance, albeit maybe a little bit smaller, that just because of the presentation of the satellite, it hadn't wrapped up as much, as I would have thought, considering it was looking even better earlier on today. If somehow we don't get that, intensification spurt here, then maybe we get lucky and it's still a hurricane landfall, still a big problem, or maybe not a major hurricane if we get really lucky, but you can't plan on that right now. You have to be taking heed here. Let me go ahead and go back to the tornado warning right now, though. Very weak rotation, but it was a confirmation of one by a Georgia Highway Patrol here in South Georgia. So, a damaging tornado as we're looking at things here, as we're tracking the situation. You gotta take heed. You gotta take heed here, folks, when there's reports of a tornado. Tornado on the ground, a tornado in progress. So again, continuing to watch the situation, continuing to give you guys the very latest here on exactly what's happening. Just trying to make sure you guys are safe and informed here. You know, a lot going on, obviously. A lot happening. We're going between a whole bunch of different stuff behind the scenes. We just have a slew of things going on as we continue to watch this scenario. Again, just trying to help you guys out here. Let me go ahead and, okay, they're still saying this is a confirmed tornado. New update, 6:57, cancel for Colquitt, but law enforcement confirmed tornado at 6:56. They're still keeping that wording there with this near Norman Park, or 12 miles north of Moultrie, moving north at 15 miles an hour. So go ahead and take those tornado precautions. You also have Scooterville and Powelltown in here. As we're looking at things, and this possible tornado could be, you know, somewhere in the vicinity of State Road 256. But again, take those tornado precautions there right away. Again, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now. Just trying to get everything updated for you guys here at home. We have so many things I'm just running between here in the Weather Center at this point. I know, but just trying to get an idea of exactly what is going on, you know, with this, and then convey that message into you guys, the viewers at home. So again, a really serious thing in terms of the hurricane itself. So let's get to one of our graphics. I think it's ready to go now. I just had to put some things in. It's a lot easier to do it quicker when not having to do it while I'm talking to you guys at the same time. But you kind of like, you know, in a situation where you're, you know, walking and chewing gum at the same time per se. But again, a nasty situation. Let me go ahead and go to our graphic source here now. We do have this in here, and oh, I gotta change this. I gotta change the header. Bear with me here. This is what happens. I have to do this manually. Unfortunately, this is how it is here on some of this. So let me go ahead. Let me make sure I have this as a hurricane on this, because using this last night, it was still a tropical storm. So again, just continuing to watch the situation here. We have this tornado warning in play, as you see here, towards South Georgia, toward parts of Tip and Worth counties here until 7:15. Again, take those tornado precautions and steer them away from windows as you're looking at this with that observed tornado. So again, nasty situation here, a nasty set of circumstances for sure, with the overall situation. Let me go ahead, I'll pull it up on graphics now. Okay, this should be ready to go for the viewers at home. This graphic here, as we continue to give you guys the very latest here on exactly, you know, what's happening, exactly what's going on here. It's all about protecting your friends. It's all about, you know, protecting your family here in a situation like this one, because this storm could have devastating consequences here as the situation does evolve. So here's your graphic source now. Your 5 o'clock update had his max winds at 85 miles an hour. It's forecast to be the strongest here, you know, the strongest storm here to hit the United States this year. The size and the strength could bring devastating impacts here. So you gotta just be really cognizant. And I know this is in Central Time, but I kind of covered them up with our wind speed numbers, the times, trying to move a couple things around there real quick. But that's, you know, as we look there in terms of the timing, we have 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at 130 mile an hour winds and then 2 a.m. Eastern time on that Friday with the 80-mile-an-hour winds. So again, that means it's going to stay a hurricane that far into our area, which is very serious, very problematic here, and not what you want to see. That red area, that's a very, very wide area under a hurricane warning. You have that blue zone. It looks like every county in Georgia under a tropical storm warning. Almost every county in Florida, but to see every county in Georgia is, pretty, crazy. Again, just continuing to watch things here, continuing to track. I know, it's going to be a historic storm. One of these, storms you'll never forget. Adalia, as bad as it was for our area, it was just terrible. This storm is even going to be worse, it looks like, and it probably will get retired. A name, Helene, that we'll never use again, because it's just going to be one that folks will have so many bad memories of. As you just see, Cat 4 headed right now. The official track is coming right up toward Tallahassee. Technically just west, but that gets them into about the worst of the impacts. A lot of the other models' guidance behind the scenes has it getting closer toward a direct hit on Taylor County and Perry. So, we'll see, which area has this total devastation here. That's still up in the air a little bit. So we just have to be really cognizant of what's going on here with our hurricane. Again, that is a very, very wide area in a hurricane warning. And I know we still have a tornado warning. So we just have a lot going on here right now. We have the flash flood warning as well. But as the situation does go along here, so let me go ahead. I'm checking some things here into the hurricane warning. It literally now goes all the way to Macon. Macon is under a hurricane warning. They're expecting hurricane conditions in Macon now. Can you believe that? I mean, really? That is just crazy to think about here. That's something that's going to cause us extensive tree damage, even up there, because they're not used to those kind of winds over a widespread area like that. I'd say for a long duration, it will be a shorter duration than most hurricanes because it's moving so fast. But it's going to be like just a really terrible squall line. In some ways, up that far north, moving in down south, it's going to be a lot worse. But just again. Just a crazy situation here as we're looking at things, not good at all here. And the hurricane warning, goes west of even our area in the word like Mariana and Dothan now. You have in our area Bainbridge and Valdosta, Thomasville, Albany, Tifton. You have in Florida, of course, Tallahassee and Apalachicola and Perry and Live Oak and Lake City, and there's so many areas under that hurricane warning. That is a huge area to be under hurricane warning, and this will be, having more impacts, as you get further from the center on the right than on the left, but, on the left side of the eye wall will still be very intense. So, again, a very serious situation. We have a tornado warning right now, and I need to go back to it. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see if they canceled it. They just canceled it. Okay, that's good news. I did not see a lot with it. It's tricky with those, situations that have a report of a touchdown, but that tornado warning has been canceled now. So that's good news in that regard. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on exactly what's going on here. Just trying to let you guys know exactly what is happening. And I wanted to say this because this says where the hurricane warning is. Again, 130-mile-an-hour winds at 2 p.m. tomorrow, 80 at 2 a.m. on Friday after the storm is already, really at that point. Let me double check our official county mapping here. It'll have already moved out of our area, the center of it, by 2 a.m. This is going to cause widespread and extended power outages. Of course, some folks, especially, further in mobile homes, or if you have a tree, you're afraid it's going to fall on your home. You might be evacuating anyway, but if you're not evacuating and you feel comfortable to be, in a position to stay put, then you still, have to be on guard for generator safety after the storm, because of the overall situation here with the power outages that are going to be so long lasting in some cases. You cannot run that generator in your home. You know, you can't run that in your home here, folks. You know, one of those gas powered type of generators, because that brings a very high risk of injury and or death because of that carbon monoxide poisoning. So gotta be careful. A lot of fatalities happen after a hurricane moves through, and folks like around Macon, you know, especially, they're not used to dealing with something like this at all. That's, you know, very concerning here, as we had the tornado warning go away, which is great news. But let me go ahead and see where we want to go with this. We have just so many places we can go, because there's so much, you know, to talk about with a situation like this. Again, we'll have a more comprehensive update later on. Let me go ahead and go on over. Let's see here. I got to clean some things up on this. Bear with me here as we continue to watch the situation. We'll go to the infrared satellite here for a moment to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with our storm system here, with Helene, of course, as we track it, you know, so carefully. The hurricane situation it's going to look so dire, it would seem, toward our covered area. You know, it's a matter of life and death here with that storm surge threat. And that's another graphic I'm about to get, you know, put together here on the fly for you guys, the viewers at home. I mean, this stuff's from the Hurricane Center, but to get in our system to make it look a little more presentable here, it takes just a moment to kind of get it together. It normally doesn't take quite this long, but I'm just trying to do it here on the fly for you guys as I talk here at the same time. This is the Wind Man Band, and we're hoping we can wrap it up for a while and then come back here with a more comprehensive update with some more details later on, if we don't get any more tornado warnings for a while. I know we have to be on for all the tornado warning storms, though, and those, you know, cause me to have to talk about, you know, that, which takes us away from the hurricane impact. You know, that's, you know, going to be with the core, and then it also you know, takes you guys away from preparing for something that could be, you know, maybe unprecedented in some of these areas. I mean, some of the South Georgia got Michael's impact, you know, pretty substantial. This goes a little further west. It could take a track in, you know, Georgia that's a little bit closer to what Michael took. So it may be a little reminiscent of that in terms of some of the wind damage. So just a crazy situation here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking. I mean, we're already, you know, seeing this tornadic weather now, though. I know with Michael, until we got a little closer, didn't really have it because it was so tightly put together. This isn't as, you know, tight of a system, maybe it's what some of the models are forecasting at this point, but you see how quick it's supposed to go from a 1 to a 2 to a 4 on its Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. We've seen it with storms like Michael to some degree, and then Charlie in 04 before. Granted, this is a bigger storm, so it may take a little longer for the pressure to, you know, kind of, you know, have that drop and then the winds, you know, catch up. But let's go ahead and put that Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale on there as I continue to get some things ready. I know the pressure to 978 millibars. So that's about, you know, what you'd expect with an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane. Sometimes you'll see the pressure really dive, and we're expecting that really, you know, nosedive, and then the winds catch up after that. And that could happen, and we might have a situation where we don't have, you know, a chance for this to really weaken. It'll be strengthening so quickly upon hitting the coast, and you know, that's something that, you know, adds, you know, its own set of problems, because that helps stronger winds get down to the surface, you know, and causes it to be a more damaging situation. I mean, you think of Adalia, you know, as bad as it was a 150-mile-an-hour hurricane, but it was weakening a little upon landfall, you know, as it was coming up there. And as bad as it was, it could have still been a good bit worse because it wasn't really, you know, it was, you know, of course, coinciding with the low tide and the like. So again, just continuing to track everything here for you. And I have to see the storm surge graphic too, because that's just so serious, so sobering, you know, the potential with that. And I'm getting that here in our source now as we continue to watch, because that storm surge threat. I mean, this storm has so many hazards that are just going to make it one. I know Idalia was really bad on the local level, but this is going to be a situation where we have, disaster areas that, literal just zones of destruction, more than likely, within our viewing circle, that are going to be even maybe harder to clean up than they were after Idalia, as bad as Idalia was, which it was very severe still, very serious. I mean, if you, I mean, I'll see some of those images here in a moment as we kind of look at things here, just to kind of give you guys an idea here of what I'm talking about. As I'm just trying to get our storm surge graphic ready now, though. But I need to show you guys what happened during Idalia last year, too. I mean, a crazy set of circumstances for sure. As we continue to watch things, continue to track. Let me go ahead and remind you guys of Idalia last year. I mean, we'll continue to be tracking things here, obviously. Let me go ahead and pull up the graphics here, though. That was Idalia, and that was bad enough, and this could still be quite a bit worse. In terms of that storm surge here. Not a good set of circumstances, obviously, at all. As I jump back to satellite for a second. And then just let me go ahead and get a couple more things set on up here for you guys. Okay, I think we have the storm surge graphic ready to show you guys on the screen, and I have another graphic after I showed last night. Okay, so this is just catastrophic here, folks. Listen up. If you were in these areas in that purple, this will be something, that depending on the ultimate track, because the eastern side here is where the surge will pile up the worst, at the center and to the east, but that's where you have the wind direction pushing that on in. This could be something you've never seen in your life. You could have, been there 70 years in these areas and never seen anything like this. That's how bad this could be. 15 to 20 feet above ground level of storm surge expected there from Roy Carabel to the Swanee River. And then you get, a little bit down the coast from the Swanee River, that's still 10 to 15 feet. But and in Carabel, Apalachicola, 10 to 15 feet, but 15 to 20 feet, that is just horrific here, folks. Absolutely horrific. And that does include areas here like Horseshoe Beach. You're expecting there 15 to 20 feet of storm surge in Horseshoe Beach. Steinhatchee. I mean, it's just heartbreaking what could happen tomorrow. I mean, we had, values that were pretty high last year. I'll see if I can get that comparison graphic up here in a moment on that. But, I mean, this could be still, just believe it or not, a lot worse. We could have, quite a few more buildings just wiped away, compared to what we had last year. We had some forecasts that were getting pretty high. Some factors helped us out. But, as bad as it was, though, if we don't get those factors to help us out, we get 15 to 20 feet above ground level, and that's just a horrific sight. As we go ahead and show you right now, this is a graphic from weather.gov to help you understand storm surge flooding. And so we talk about 15 to 20 feet. So, 7 feet, 12 feet, well, that's bad enough. It can be deadly. Flood a house on the first story. But now you're talking about, 15 to 20 feet. This graphic here, from NOAA shows how you could be flooding the second story of a home. And really, at this point, the weather, you'll have waves on top of that. It could really be breaking the house apart, and really causing you to be in a fight for your life. And first responders, they won't be able to get to you if you don't get out. I mean, they won't be able to get to you in the worst of the storm. There's still time to evacuate. I know you got to dodge a few things here or there, but It's going to be so much worse tomorrow. And if you're in these coastal areas, you have to evacuate. Your life depends on it here, folks. This is a grave situation here as we're looking towards some more coastal zones. So we're talking 15, 20 feet. I mean, you're just ripping the house apart, probably moving it off the foundation, and your life. You're holding on. I mean, I remember people in Hurricane Ian. They were, trying to maybe hold on to appliances and the like, but with it being storm surge on the second floor, you might not even have appliances up there. You might be trying to get on the roof if it's still kind of there, and you got to be careful not to get trapped in the attic, because then you could have flooding in there, and then you might not have a way to get out. So, got to be really, really careful here. That's why you got to evacuate. You don't want to be in that situation. Saying in emergency management and over the years of the governor's office has been that your home can be replaced, but your life cannot be replaced, and you got to take that to heart here as we're looking towards some of these areas. It's just awful, awful news that I'm coming to you with right here as we look. Awful, terrible. Get out. This is an emergency. Care about a Swanee River. 15 to 20 feet of storm surge is, potentially unsurvivable. You have to evacuate. This could rival what we had in Michael there in 2018 toward Mexico Beach. That is very, very bad, and you don't want to be caught in this set of circumstances. You have to get out here. This is a matter of life and death here. I can't say it hard, as clear, concise, as harshly, as I mean, I can't say it, any harsher, really. You gotta get out here. Let me go ahead. See here, another look at things. There's your storm. Your Cat 1 right now, what is expected to strengthen, power up that storm surge, and bring those catastrophic impacts here. Very serious situation. So, you gotta get out here. You have to evacuate. Just working on another graphic real quick. Again, a very serious situation. Coastal devastation expected from Helene. You gotta really, be evacuating. I'm just typing some things here real quick while we're on. We had those tornado warnings I had to cover before I wrap it up. I just wanted to go over some of this with you guys in case you're, in a situation where you might not be able to watch later. I want to make sure folks have this information, because this is, a crisis potentially. We're talking about a potential humanitarian crisis here as we look ahead and toward the timeline. So this is so serious, folks. So very, very serious. I'm not saying all this to hype it up, but we, really, have to be, taking this to heart here with what's going on. Again, this is a very, kind of scary graphic here. I used it last year in Adalia, and I'm just getting it set here for Helene because the potential is there, for stuff like I'm about to say. So let me go ahead and go to graphics here. This is a picture from Mexico Beach after Michael, and coastal devastation from Helene could look like this in the hardest hit areas. So you have to evacuate. You have to get out. Our coastal Gulf zones, it's so serious. I know folks hate to evacuate sometimes, but this is not a situation where you want to mess around. I mean, really, all of our Gulf Coast communities, really have to evacuate. I mean, we have Franklin County with a lot of concern, but even more concern with Cullah. It would seem, depending on the ultimate track, Franklin could still get it the worst, depending on how this tracks. So let's just say Franklin with Cullah, Jefferson, that coastal zone, Taylor's coastal zone, Dixie's coastal zone, Levy's coastal zone. Everybody just needs to get out because the devastation could look like this in the hardest hit areas. I know there's already lightning down there and the like in Levy County, but it's going to be a lot worse tomorrow night. Maybe about 24 hours or just a little bit more or less, give or take, from now. So just get out here, evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. In this type of situation, coastal Franklin, coastal Wakulla, coastal Jefferson, coastal Taylor, coastal Dixie, coastal Levy from the surge, and there's some mandatory evacuations for further, areas away from the coast, more about the wind and the like. And some of those cases, or some of the surge could go several miles in anyway, but this is so serious here. A very sobering situation. As I jump back over to our other source once again here, with that flash flood warning continuing in Georgia right now, I will continue to monitor. Again, continuing to try to give you the very latest on exactly what's going on here, what's happening as we look towards some of the different communities. I need to pull up some more wind graphics because I have some pictures of Michael wind devastation that I think could be helpful for the viewers at home here. So it should be in our system. Some of them may be in a different source here. Oh, this one is the one I want. Okay. Doing this on the fly a little bit. Now I need to change some of this, but because things are a little bit different here. I want to make sure we're kind of, with the speed of this, taking some different things into consideration, but we'll show you this one now. 2018, so I'm talking, that wind, a storm, moving here at 30 miles an hour at forward speed. I mean, Michael didn't even move this fast, so could actually be a little worse than this, to be quite honest, but let's go ahead and say here, the inland Michael damage from Mariana in 2018. This is 50 miles inland. We could see damage at least as bad, if not even potentially worse, around Valdosta and areas in and around, depending on where the eye wall goes tomorrow night. So that, is serious. And 2 weeks later, now, granted, I think things might be in a little bit better setup with so many hurricanes since then. But 2 weeks later after this one, nearly 50% remain without power in Jackson County. But, with what happened there back then, there's been some lessons learned, it would seem, and the power restoration should be a little quicker, but still, you gotta be thinking it could be out for a week in a lot of areas here, that are still inhabitable, but some areas will be uninhabitable, obviously. So, again, I wanted to remind you guys of that here as we track Helene. Hurricane Helene. Again, such a serious scenario here. And just going ahead and continuing to give you guys the latest. Let me see this graphic here as well. Make sure you're securing property and deciding whether evacuation is necessary. Life-threatening storm surge is certain across parts of the zone there. Basic disaster supplies kit that includes water, non-perishable food, a battery-powered or hand-cranked radio, a NOAA weather radio, flashlight, as well as a first aid kit here. It's also important to have cash and gas in that full list there. Ready.gov there /kit. So keep that in mind, and then charge those devices up if you're staying put. But a lot of folks in mobile homes need to get out, because a lot of the mobile homes, they could be completely ripped apart here tomorrow by the winds, tornadic-like winds coming through. But if you're not in that situation and you're staying put, you want to charge those devices up. As many power outages are certain, and be ready to move to an interior room in a tornadic situation and or an extreme wind warning, which is a longer duration situation where you have tornado-like winds. And also keep in mind the wind direction will switch real quickly when a hurricane moves through, depending on where you are within the eye wall and the like. So keep that in mind as you're looking closer to the core. And then after a storm moves through, staying away from power lines and generator safety is critical. So again, important stuff to keep in mind there as we continue to give you guys the very latest. Okay, so getting a couple different reports now. We came on the air for the tornado warning. We had another one after. There was a report of a tornado by Georgia Highway Patrol. And let me go ahead and jump over to our other system. I'm just going to stay with the Broadview of the storm so you guys know what's going on right now. But we did have a report, Colquitt County at 6:35. Georgia Highway Patrol reported a brief touchdown. No damage reported this time around Cool Spring in Colquitt County. We're also seeing a report of water over the road at 1st Avenue and 3rd Street with that flash flood warning. So let's real quick jump over to that flash flood warning. Look at our totals. This is 12 hour, about 3 inches. 1 hour, 2 or 3. But this is just making things, less able to handle what's going to happen tomorrow with the direct core and the like. Even though it's moving through quick, flooding will still be a concern. Not the biggest concern, storm surge flooding. The biggest concern tomorrow, the high wind event, that we're going to have is, a close second. And then a third concern will be a tornado risk, earlier on. And that, would be when we would be watching that probably most closely. But even a little after landfall, it could happen in some spots too, as we check here and watch things. And then even a strong tornado can't be ruled out. Flooding's probably the fourth, highest concern, flooding, flash flooding, not associated with storm surge. So just kind of breaking some of the different hazards down for you in order as we're looking at things. So again, trying to give you guys the very latest. Let's see where else I might want to go here with some of our different sources. Again, watching this so closely, so carefully. In Idalia last year, we had an extreme one morning situation. This morning event there, you saw those pink boxes, the tornado-like winds over a wide area. We're probably going to have some of those tomorrow, and some of them could be in similar areas as Idalia. So just reminding you guys of that. That's something we don't see often, but that's what that looks like on our maps there. Even had lightning in that hurricane, which is crazy, but we could have it in this one too with the direct core, but don't always have it in direct core. But as we go ahead and continue here, another thing that's worth showing, this was Idalia's wind history, and that red area, the hurricane force winds, so much smaller than what we're expecting tomorrow. That's crazy when you think about it. How much bigger that could be, the swath of that. So, greater area with the impacts. Not good. And still, you saw that didn't look that big. And then look what happened in Allen Park and Swanee County 1 week after Idalia. Could have this over even a wider area here after tomorrow night and tomorrow evening. It's a very bad situation. Make sure you stay away from falling power lines and the like. Because, they could still be live and they could electrocute you after the storm. Another look here from Allen Park after Idalia last year. We saw some of that debris there, obviously. I know I'm going to have to go in here because I've been busy doing coverage now, but this is what I had for a wind gust forecast earlier on. I don't anticipate, many changes really toward the ones toward the east. Look, unless we have a SIP, we could have a SIP east, and some of the models, that's more pronounced, but I'm kind of accounting for a little bit of a track further east. I know, if anything, I feel like I might have to just kind of make sure we increase the numbers around Tallahassee and Valdosta because of the official forecast at this point, kind of staying firm here on maybe a track a little further west, and then you could really be in a situation where you have near 100% outages, and a lot of those for a week. So maybe a while, depending on the ultimate track, a while before the students get back into class at FSU. I know at the last check they were closed through the week and weekend there on campus, but it could be a situation where campus is closed for a lot longer. It could be in virtual classes, for several weeks. You just never know. State Capitol could have problems there. There's all sorts of different resources in Tallahassee that could have problems here. Emergency management. I know they're in Tallahassee. Just I know different things may have to be kind of moved around here in an emergency situation if things kind of go offline or are not able to be taken care of from there. As we go ahead and continue to watch things, let me go ahead, jump away from that graphic again. I see there was a gust of 41 around Dallin Park. Ironically, we're just showing you Dallin Park stuff. They're considering this a tropical cyclone, tropical storm wind gust at the Dallin Park area at 510. Could start to get some isolated power outages. This is nothing, close to the core of our system here, though. And I know if a system this strong and moving a lot slower, it would really be a lot, longer duration event than we're used to. But it's going to be a little shorter duration because it's moving so fast, even though it's so serious. So I'm not really seeing too many power outages. 639 customers out in Colquitt County right now, and 490 out in Hamilton County, according to PowerOutages.us. But I know just continuing to watch the radar and the different tools here. Again, toward the weather center. I'm just jumping around here with some of our graphics. I wanted to say the Adalia comparison graphic with the storm surge, and see if I can get this up in here on the fly. Another thing is I'm kind of looking through all our graphics we've had in the past here. So be very careful after the storm in terms of, the crews will be working there, restoring things like power, internet, maybe cable, and just make sure you're very, very careful around them and use extra caution so there's not accidents. I believe after Michael, we had folks lose their life in an accident there in the aftermath of Michael. So you got to be really cognizant. I believe that was at nighttime, but still, you got to be really careful. Again, just going through some of the different information here. Okay, so now this graphic, I use this graphic, and I'm not sure if I've updated it here recently in terms of, I'm not sure if this was updated after we got the final report in Adalia, but this tells a story, and it's not a good one at all here, folks. So it's important I show this graphic to you guys here right now. So this is Cedar Key, the highest water levels here comparatively, and you see the highest was around 6.9 feet or so during Adalia last year, and that was bad enough. And for that specific area, the forecast, is looking very sobering, as we look at the coastline and the like. It's technically, as we look down there, you have south of the Swanee River. So, Swanee River there, it's in a spot, as you're looking at things there, of course, where Cedar Key would be more than 10 to 15 feet storm surge zone, where Horseshoe Beach would be 15 to 20 on the latest forecast, but still 10 to 15 feet, puts you ahead of Adalia by a good bit here, and that's not what you want to hear, not what you want to see, obviously. So, if we do have a situation like, the size of the storm, being not as big as we're expecting, that can reduce it a little, but it's supposed to be a lot bigger than Adalia was. The track, has impacts. The eyewall placement cycle, if we have one started, that would reduce the surge some, but we're probably not going to have that because it's going to move in so quick. High tide can be a problem, so it could be more like, 10, 12, 15 feet, and that causes a lot more damage, and it could be more, like 15 to 20 feet around Horseshoe Beach, Swanee, Steenhatchee, and the like, depending on ultimate track. Could be in, areas like Wakulla and Jefferson County as well, very high. areas that haven't maybe got it as bad here, in a little bit more, recent history, or even going back, I mean, we had a lot in Michael, some of the areas like Franklin County and that vicinity. But again, I think I'm about to wrap it up since we don't have any active tornado warnings. I just want to go over all that stuff with you guys here while I had the chance, because things are going to get very crazy here in the Weather Center as we track Hurricane Helene. I mean, we're already getting, some tornado warnings, so that's cause for concern already. As you see here, our storm system. Then you have the radar. Of course, the radar didn't go that far out, but point being, we already have a flash flood warning. Already some flooding concerns adding to the rain right ahead of the core. That's tomorrow. Another thing I need to say, you guys, here real quick, I think, is our GFS model run. This can kind of help you guys, the viewers out at home, as we track things, as we monitor things here. Let me go ahead and load this on in. This is going to be at 5 p.m. tomorrow. And we still have lightning, some stuff on the screen. I'll leave it up, the current stuff. But this is tomorrow's model at 5 p.m. And then you see it coming in very quickly. And this has it going up there through about Taylor County. And then, just being a devastating blow. And even that eyewall getting Lake City pretty badly. Hurricane warning for you guys in Columbia County. And then you see Valdosta, really taking it on the chin, the I-75 corridor there, getting into South Georgia, Adel, and you see the eye, and then getting further up, and then maybe not as much on the back side. I mean, at 2 a.m., you see not as much rain here, anywhere around North Florida, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I'll back it up, though. Depending on the ultimate track, Stark might not get a whole bunch of rain, even though we'll have that tornado threat. We'll have some of that, wind there still. But going forward with this, you see on Friday it cleared out, and then there's going to be a lot of cleanup to be had Friday weekend, and maybe even a lot longer, especially areas west and near, but especially west of I-75, looks like in Florida and then in Georgia. Maybe get a little bit further east of that, with some of that damage. But, that's more, severe. But let me go ahead and pull up another look at things here. Bear with me. Toggling through some of this. As we continue to give you the latest. So, look at tomorrow 8 a.m. We could still have, tornado risk here and play that early on the high-res model. And then, that can be problematic, obviously. Got to get in the interior room away from windows. We'll have to cover it. And then you see our eye here coming. Sure, this high-res model has it closer into Tallahassee, closer to the official track. And then that really has, the consequences there. Devastating to catastrophic Tallahassee, but even Perry to some degree. Most of these, scenarios really don't miss Perry with, catastrophic type impacts. And then this kind of goes more right into Bainbridge and Thomasville with the impacts like you guys really maybe haven't seen. I know Bainbridge had it pretty bad in Michael, Thomasville a little bit less so. But this could head right into Thomasville, and that could be very, very bad for you guys in Thomasville and Thomas County under this scenario. And then that gets you right in there, through Moultrie and then up toward Tifton maybe. And that's about, let's see, 11 p.m. So, that moves so quickly with that on that high-res model. That's midnight, 1 o'clock, and we'll back it up again. That makes landfall here about 8 o'clock on this model. That's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So, kind of interesting there. And again, the lightning, the warnings, that's stuff in play currently, but I wanted to keep some of that up as we go back to current radar and start to wrap things up. And there's some flash flooding in southeast Alabama as well as you track the situation. But I think it's time for me to wrap this update up. I know I'll have a new update from the Hurricane Center soon. See if there's anything from Recon here. Anything new from Recon? I don't see anything, much higher than we had earlier on, but we're gonna have to continue to track El Nino. We'll be back here with more later on, so keep it tuned. The cloud weather, we're gonna keep you guys up to date on the different platforms here. As we monitor the situation, as we track it here. Facebook KC Cloud WX Cloud Weather, Twitter /X at Cloud KC, YouTube at Cloud Weather. I know on YouTube, subscribe there. You have the DVR functionality. And you have Twitch, Cloud Weather, cloudweather.com has all the different links and then also the interactive radar. So keep it tuned here. I'll be back here as conditions warrant to keep you guys safe and informed. Please, the biggest message is make sure you're heeding those evacuation orders, as that storm surge could be just horrific towards some of our viewing circle.